It's time to get started with colored pencils. If you're over 50 and you've been thinking about starting a new hobby that is artistic in nature, but you have no idea where to start, you don't know what supplies to use or where to get them, or what to do, this is a video for you. Using a few simple supplies, I'm going to show you how to go from a blank canvas to a masterpiece. The footage you're going to see is shot in real time so that you understand my process from start to finish and get to see this medium in action. So let's dive in. This video is the first in the series on how to get started as an artist using colored pencils, or pencil crayons as we call them in Canada. You're going to see pencil crayons in action using my Magic Daffodil template, which you can get for free by signing up to my email list using the link in the description box below. Here's our template. This is our daffodil. You probably can't see it very well because I have erased most of it. I have traced this from the original Magic Daffodil template, but I've taken a lot of it off because as we use these colored pencils or pencil crayons, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to use those phrases interchangeably. So when I say pencil crayons, I mean colored pencils. I can't help it. That's my programming. After 55 years, it's probably not going to break very easily. So we're going to get started on our daffodil. Like I said, it's lightened up, made it using the template. So I'm going to start by putting down my magic wand and picking up my first color, which is going to be golden yellow. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the materials I'm using. I'm going to list everything in the description box below so that you can either use the same materials or get something similar. Don't stress out about that. I also have a video walking you through how to choose and purchase materials. So for now, just enjoy the process of seeing this daffodil come to life. So I have like kind of a basic yellow standard color. I'm using Crayola pencil crayons. I'm using the cheap stuff because not everybody can afford to go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff that's top of the line when they're starting a project, right? Even the paper that I'm working on, this is a sketch pad, is literally, it's Da Vinci brand from Dollarama for $2. Okay, seriously. This is 9 by 12, 30 sheets for $2. So super cheap. So let's get started on our daffodil. I'm going to start by outlining, just going along the outline with my yellow that I can see of my lovely magic daffodil. Now, clearly there is nothing magic about this daffodil. In case you were wondering, no, it is not magic. What the magic is the skills that you will develop by continually learning this magic daffodil and repeating the process until you can do it in your sleep. You can do it with your eyes closed. You know what I'm saying? Repetition and muscle memory is the number one thing that is going to make you a good or even better artist, maybe than you already are, if you are at all. As I've said, I'm just doing the outline. Super easy. So I've done the petals. Let's go to here, and I'm going to take this to here. So I'm doing the petals in yellow. It's going to be a combination of this kind of mid-tone, mid kind of colored yellow and a lighter yellow, like a lemon yellow. I'm going to use that. We're going to use white as well. I may as well take that out. And a light orange. I'm going to take this one. I think it's yellow orange, so it's a lighter orange. And I might do a little bit of shading with a couple of darker red and maroons. Now, I'm going to use some phrases that get thrown around in the art world, and you may not exactly know what I'm talking about, but this is going to come in time. As I say certain things, I'm going to try and explain what I'm talking about as I go along because, and I'm going to reiterate this, I'm going to be like a broken record. This series is for absolute beginners. Like you don't know a pencil from a pot of paint. You know what I mean? This is your thing. This is where you can get started because believe me, I had very little art experience. I had to take it in grade 9. Okay. And grade school, that was laughable. That wasn't even a thing because, my school was pretty ghetto. So I had to start from scratch too. So I'm going to explain as much as I can as I go along. I've outlined the petals in this kind of medium yellow color. And now I'm going to go and outline the trumpet part in orange because I want that to be a little bit darker. And you know what? If you've ever seen a daffodil, they come in all kinds of different types and colors and shapes and styles. I mean, they're all kind of similar, but they have their own flavor and flair too. So what I want are light petals and a darker orangey kind of trumpet. And then I have a little bit of a green stem here too. You know what? We'll outline that guy for now as well. So at least you'll get to see in general what we're working with. And there we go. So what we want to do is obviously use our colored pencils to get color onto the paper. It's kind of how it works. So what I do is I take my pencil and I make sure it's a very sharp point. This one's not too bad. Plug your ears. The electric sharpener is about to get going. There we go. Now that's sharp. I like it. So when you're using colored pencils, and we're starting from a very basic perspective. You saw me trace the flower. Anyone can trace a flower. A 5-year-old can probably trace a flower. I'm going to assume you can get here. I'm going to back up for a second and suggest this as well. Depending on how you learn, whatever your preference is, everyone has their own learning style. You could watch this video in its entirety, see what I do, listen to me babble, then go through a second time once you've got some paper and some colored pencils and follow along. You can always do that. Whichever works for you is what you need to do. You want to jump right in and follow along while I'm talking? Have at her. I'm good with that. You need to pause and do some stuff and catch up with me? Do that too. It's whatever makes it easier for you. So after we have put in our outline, when we want to lay down the color, which means actually color and deposit whatever our medium is, whether it's colored pencils, whether it's paint, whether it's, what's the thing? See, this is the other thing too. You're going to get the brain gaps. It's after 50, right? Artists after 50, which means I'm going to forget words, which I just did. Pastels, those things. No matter what you're using, it's laying down the color is basically, or depositing the color onto the surface that you want it to go onto. So in order to lay down our beginning color of the darker yellow, if you hold the pencil on its side, like you might think, okay, there's the point of the pencil, right? And that you want to do this like you did when you were a kid with your crayons, right? Do that. No. Don't want to do that. You actually want to use the width of the lead of the pencil, so the yellow part, right? The waxy yellow part of the pencil. You want to hold it on its side like this, because when you do, you have more control over where the color goes and how hard you're pressing, because the harder you press, the darker it's going to be, the more color you're going to deposit onto the paper. I'm going to do a little demo up here just for fun. So if I put my pencil on the side, right, and I just rest it on the paper and I just do this, right, you can see that color going down. And I'm going very lightly, very, very lightly. And as I go over it more and more, it gets darker and darker. So the more you go over an area, the darker it's going to get, because you're putting more of the waxy pencil crayon onto your whatever it is you're drawing, right? Or you can press hard and it will get darker. So you can do it either way. In this video, because it's the basics and we're just getting started, I'm just going to go with a really light hand, super light. I'm going to start at the bottom of the petals and work my way to the top. I'm going to start at the base of this little trumpet. That's what I call it, the trumpet. I have no idea what it's called, but I call it the trumpet, and work my way up. I do this because in nature, what happens when you look at most flowers, as you get close to where the petals are attached in the center, which is around this trumpet area, it's usually darker because the petals are coming in towards the trumpet. And when you get inside, that's where it's darker. The tips tend to be where the sun is hitting it at the top of each petal, tend to be lighter. And that's a very general statement. It's a very general guideline to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to start just in little kind of circle-ish motions. I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow on the bottom there. See, just a little bit of yellow. No big deal, right? Look at that. So we have, pretty definite white up here, yellow down here. And I might even go a little bit darker down here towards the bottom of the petal. Just a little bit darker, just not a lot. Just add a little bit more. And then you can see as you get down here, it looks even darker. This is shading. This is putting down more of that color like we did here. Not when we pressed hard, but when we just kept going over this over and over lightly, it's going to get darker and darker and darker. We just did the same thing on this petal. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move up. I'm going to move up the petal a little bit, even lighter. I'm going to come down a bit and blend it in a little bit more. And I'm just like super light hand, it's going to get even lighter. And now you can see this very gradual transition of the little bit darker getting lighter and lighter and lighter to almost white. Well, it is pretty white because I haven't even gone over that. And that's it. First petal, first layer. We've just got started. And I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of these. So I'm going to turn my pad around just because it's easier to work with. And again, down at the base and around the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead, lay down my yellow. I'm going to go over it. And as I go over it, it's going to get darker, right? So now I'm going to start moving up and do a lighter layer and move up a little bit more and a little bit more and just a tiny bit more, getting lighter and lighter each time. And there we are. You can see it's a little bit darker down here, and it just gets lighter and lighter towards the tips. I'm going to do the same thing here at the bottom of this. Just going to go around the bottom, make it a little bit darker. And you can see here along where we actually drew in the lines of the petals, you can see that graphite pencil coming through where I had to put the sketch onto the paper. Normally we would try and get as much of that off as we could so you can't see it and all you're going to see is the yellow. But this is just starting. This is just beginner stuff, right? And these are the mistakes that you make. I'm not showing you perfection. I'm not showing you something that happens from start to finish and there are no errors. That's most of what you're going to see on YouTube or anywhere else. Artists are going to show you what's perfect. They aren't going to show you things that go wrong. They aren't going to show you things that don't look right. They just don't, because they're professional artists and they want to give you the best. They want to show you in a perfect world, this is what your stuff's going to look like. Guess what? On this channel, we ain't perfect. Nothing is. So you're going to see things like, oh yeah, it would look better if that wasn't there. And I just noticed when I did my tracing, this should have come over here and this should have been down a little bit more. It's off. Do I care? Nope. You know why? Because you're here to watch me do some coloring is basically what we're doing. So I'm going to add some more dark down here and then we're bringing it up. Same thing. First layer. We may do more layers, we may not. And you can come down, like if you're up here and you're thinking, wow, in the center it's still a bit too light, just come in and put another layer. Just put a little bit more. Super light. Just, just go over that. There we go. Next one. I almost think that this might even be a bit too dark. Like I've put a lot of yellow on here with not a lot of white. What I'm going to say about that, let's turn them upright again for a second. Remember how I was saying when we're close to the base, like where the petals attach to the flower in nature, it tends to be a little bit darker and the tips tend to be a little bit lighter. There's another thing that will kind of dictate what looks darker and what looks lighter when you're using shade and light, which we'll talk about in another video. We're not going to get into that too much today, but it's your light source. And for this, my light source would be coming like this. It's coming from the top, like it would be the sunshine. If this daffodil was in a meadow or a garden, the sun is up here. The sun isn't shining from up here onto the daffodil. So you know that the light is either coming down like this or maybe coming in here, maybe even coming in here, depending on if the sun's rising or setting, or if it's like high noon way up here. So down here, because the sun is here and the opposite to the sun would be the darker side, this side of the whole flower would naturally be a little bit darker anyway. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to say this again. Because the light of the sun will come down onto the flower, the top part tends to be lighter and the bottom part tends to be a little bit darker. So we're going to move along with that. So this bottom half being a little bit darker, I'm not mad at that. Don't mind it. Not at all. But what if I'm just going to keep coloring these and we're going to have a little chat and talk about this? So what would happen if, let's say, I was doing a petal like the one I'm doing right now? And let's say I'm happy. I got some nice, a little bit darker yellow down here. And I start taking it up and I take it up here. And I take it up here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. It's all good. And la, 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 la. I'm talking to my friends on YouTube. We're talking about daffodils and how much we like daffodils. And then I look and I go, oh no, what'd I do? I wasn't paying attention. Look how dark that is. Look how light that is. What am I going to do? You know what? Don't panic. You know what you're going to do? You're going to make this darker. You're going to make this darker. That's what you're going to do. You're going to make this darker. You know why? Because we can. Because we can. We're just going to make this a little bit darker. Because here's the thing. We can't lighten this up. This is one of the things about colored pencils or pencil crayons, right? You can't lighten this up. Once you put down a dark color, it is very hard to make it light. So I'm just going to work with it. I'm just going to put some shading over here and I'm going to do this and go, yeah, you know what? This is a little darker. Maybe we'll even bring in a little bit more, even it up a little bit. That's okay. It's all right. And luckily, it happened on the lower half of the flower, which might end up being a little darker anyway. And to balance that, we could even come over here and make his little friend beside him a little bit darker. Not a ton, doesn't have to be as dark as this. We can just darken this up a little bit, just a little bit, so it doesn't look totally out of place. Okay? We're just going to lay a little bit more down there. I know you see the shadow of my hand, and yeah, just lightly bring in a little darker tone. See? Look at that. Masterpiece. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now we're going to come over here to the next one. And now we're going to pay a little more attention because we don't want to repeat what we just did there. So we're going to pay a little more attention. And we're going to go ahead and lighten it up as we come up. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. We're going to put a little more darkness over here. And last, we got our little guy just poking up out here. Now, this guy's probably going to be pretty light. We've got a light source coming down here. I don't want to talk about light source too much. I don't want to confuse you or make you afraid. Like, oh my God, what is she doing? I don't know what a light source is. I don't understand this. It's okay. We're just going to do the whole thing like super pale yellow. I just went super light-handed with this. And now we have a daffodil with yellow petals. Are we done? No, of course we aren't. We're going to work on our trumpet now. Once we're done the trumpet, we're going to take a look at the petals and see what we think. We might embellish a little bit. So let's get our trumpet going. So we want to do the trumpet in orange. Do I want this orange? Yeah, I do want the yellow orange. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to very lightly go over our little trumpet here. And I can see that I didn't trace that or I didn't outline that very well. Now we can do that a little bit darker. We can do our edges a little bit darker. Edges can be dark too because sometimes there's a bit of shadow under there. Like this trumpet is sticking out like this, but this edge might even be kind of folded over a little bit. We're not going to get into that detail today, but we can go ahead and add a little bit of shading in the corners. Oh, you think about that. A little bit of shading in the corners. Tiny bit. We just want a little bit darker. And do the same thing down here. Just a little bit darker. And then as we bring that orangey color up, we're going lighter and lighter. You see? A little bit lighter, a little bit darker under here, and that's okay. And just to mix it up a little bit, I'm going to take a peach color. You don't have to. You can just continue on with the orange the way it is, but I'm going to bring in some peach, which is a nice light version of orange, right? It's a pale kind of orange. And I'm just going to go over the whole thing. I'm just going to go over the whole thing. That's right. Just go over everything I just colored in. Because bringing in this nice light color over everything kind of helps it blend in a little bit together. Remember how when we were fixing our guy over here, and I had mentioned that you can't really put a light color over a dark one and expect, it to lighten up, but it can help blend in some of what's going on. And I'm just adding a little more in here. I had to fix a corner there. It was looking a little rough. And as usual, I'm just going lighter and lighter as I come out. I'm going to go back with this nice peachy color. And that's that. Look at that. Pretty, isn't it? That's really pretty. Now, the inside of the trumpet, we're going to do the same thing. Going closer to the sun, which is up here somewhere, I'm going to start with our light peach. I'm going to take this peach all over the whole inside of the trumpet. Because opposite of what we were doing here, it's really easy to put a dark color on top of a light color, right? Makes sense? And I'm just going to put a little bit more darker peach around the edges. Just going to put another layer in there, right? There we go. I could almost leave it like that. That's super pretty. I like that. But because our edges sometimes have a little bit of a shadow underneath, I'm going to take our darker orange and just, very, very super gently, just go a little bit around here. Just a tiny, tiny bit. See? Can you see that? Coming together? Nice. And down here. And I can even bring it in a little bit. And then we have this nice light part right in the center there. Super cute. Super, super cute. But I can see this part down here. I'm not liking it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring in my orange red. Bring in the big guns. You can see here where, remember how I was saying you can see the lead of the pencil coming through, which normally I'm not mad at. But there seems to be a gap here is what it feels like. So I'm going to take this red, which is an even darker color. It's red-orange, orange-red. Let's see what it's called. Red-orange. And I'm just bringing an even little bit more depth and dimension there with this next color, this extra color in there. It's the kind of thing that you can barely see it, but it's there. We know it's there. Okay. Now I'm going to take, what have we got here? We have brown. What a boring name, but brown. And you probably can't see it very well, but we got the little pistil or stamen thing or whatever sticking out. I'm just going to literally draw a couple of lines for these guys. And a little dot. There we go. Now you can see it sticking out. Is there anything else I want to touch on here? I'm going to use white. Maybe I'll use the lemon yellow. Let's use our lemon yellow. This is looking pretty good. It's coming together well, but there's something else I want to add here. And you don't have to. You could leave this as it is. But here's what I want to do. With daffodils and many flowers, you'll notice this. Where they're attached, you can almost see like little veins coming up from the bottom, and sometimes even little lines coming from the top. So I'm going to do that. From the top, I'm going to go wherever there is a dip or a divot, I'm going to extend those lines into the flower. And I'm going to go around each of the petals, and wherever there is a dip or a divot, I'm going to bring it down into the flower. And if there isn't a dip or a divot, just make one. Pretend. Now, this guy's dark, so you know what? I'm going to bring in that peach. That peach might show up against this yellow. And you can barely see it. You can barely see it. But it doesn't have to be dark. Take our lemon yellow and make our nice little lines. And even this guy, this little guy, we can put some on there. Just a hint of detail. And this is the kind of stuff that can elevate your art. This is, what separates the boys from the men, as we used to say, right? And now I'm going to do the same from the bottom, but we need a bit of a darker color. I'm going to test this peach and see how it looks. Can we see that? No, we want a darker color. Let's try our orange. Just taking that orange. That one's a bit too dark. See if I can lighten that up. I know I said you can't really lighten what's there, but I'm going to try by going over this with some white. Yeah, that color was a bit too dark for that one, but that's okay. We got the gist of it. Let's get our peach for these ones. Yeah, the peach is good for that one. It's probably good for this one too. And yeah, let's do our orange very lightly for this one. I can't remember if I did this one already. Shows how good my memory is. All right, there we go. So we've put a few lines in. I know this one's a bit dark. You know how we can fix that? Make the petals darker. See? And by contrast, those won't look so dark. I've got the lemon yellow on this one, but that's okay. Think of all the different shades of each color that might be in just one flower, right? A red rose, when you look at it, it's not exactly the same red over every square nanometer of the rose. The way light is, the way shadow plays on it, it's always going to look a little bit different. I want to darken this up a bit too. Let's get our yellow. Just a tiny bit here. See, and this is the thing. I'm just going in and tweaking some stuff. That's it. And you know what? I'm happy with that. But I'm not happy that we haven't colored in our stem. So let's do that. I've just got kind of a light green, and this is called lime green. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of fill in the whole thing. Easy, basic. There we go. We got a stem. Not doing leaves or anything today. Nothing complicated. We got a stem. Lovely, beautiful. But what we could do is zhuzh it up a little bit. I mean, look at the detail we put in here. Look at the detail we put in this thing. We're not going to leave this basic. So I'm taking a darker green, and this is called pine green. And on the side that is going to get less sun, which is going to be over here, assuming the sun's around here, I'm just going to very lightly just go up the side of that stem, like super, like you can barely see me even doing anything, right? It's going to bring it up here. And what's going to happen is as you get closer to the flower under here, I'm going to bring it in a little bit too, because the flower is going to throw some shade onto the stem as well. So just kind of super light, super light, come along here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I kind of go in the middle a little bit. I play around. And as we get to the bottom, I add more and more. I come more into the center and just bring that color in here. And it's super subtle, but you can see that there's a little bit of darkness, a little bit of light. That way it's not just boom, one big boring green stem. When we're playing around with the lightness and darkness of colors, which is tone and value, you'll learn all that later. But when you're playing with the dark and the light, this is what makes your drawings or your paintings, whatever artwork, look a little more real, look less flat, like, oh, it's just a flower on a page, right? That's boring. It makes it kind of pop off the page a little bit when you give it more dimension. Look like it has more dimension. Just looks a little more interesting and a little more realistic. But this is just a basic, super basic. This is how you can create a magic daffodil. Bringing the magic in. Bringing the magic in. Future Nancy here popping in because when I was looking at the footage, I always play back my videos, make sure they're the best for my peeps. I noticed that I wasn't thrilled with the coloring of our lovely daffodil at the end of the video. So I'm popping in just to do a couple things. Then we're going to revert back to where I ended up. So I'm finding that the dark parts are just a little bit too dark. This is what happens when you film at night, even when you have good lighting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my yellow. I'm going back in with the yellow, and I'm going to go over the areas that I want to darken up a little bit, just like we did before. Same thing. We're going to gently and lightly go over and bring that color up a little bit. Over here, I want this a little bit darker. It's just that there's, for me anyway, and in my opinion, too stark a contrast between the darkness and the light bit. So I'm just going to close that gap a little bit. The other thing I did notice, which I'm also going to fix in a minute here, see, I'm just coming up super light, right? Just to even it out a little more. There we go. This is better. And just some of the spots, right? So yeah, okay, this is good. And I noticed that where the leaves separate from each other is pretty blurred as well. This is not good. There we go. That's better. Even in those corners, that needs to darken up a bit. And this guy, we're going to darken him up a bit too. Yeah, so where the petals also meet, it's just a little bit too light for me there as well. Not enough definition, so we're going to do that. And I'm even going to bring a tiny bit of darkness into the little guy who's peeking up there. Just a little bit. So it's more of a darker yellow daffodil than I had anticipated. But you know what? You get the idea, right? At the end of the day, you get the idea of how to lay down that color. I'm gonna fix this guy a bit too. He's a bit off. Okay. Yeah, I think this is gonna look way better. Okay. So now, like I said, you can't really see the definition. So I'm going to come in just with the orange and just give it a super light pass over, a little wash of the darker orange, just where they meet, not necessarily coming around the whole flower, though I might bring it up just a tiny bit, just to get that definition. There we go. And here, we're going to bring this up in here. I'll even come around here a little bit, I suppose. Came out a bit too much there, but that's okay. And yeah, I'm going to come around here to define that leaf and not leaf, petal. And here a little bit. Why not, right? Not going to hurt anything. And I think having that definition, come down here a bit too, having that definition helps. And definitely next time we're going to take off more of this graphite that you can even see because of course it's not perfect, right? But we're going to take off more of the graphite when we go into further examples and tutorials. But I think now that I'm looking at it, yeah, this is much better. I'm going to bring this yellow up a little bit more too. Darken that around the edges where you might actually see some shadow. Come up a little more. There we go. All right, that is definitely better. So I'm going to jump back into where the video left off, but at least you can now see what the end result is actually going to be. Be sure to look at the playlists that I've got on the channel because they are set up so that if there is a specific art medium you want to look at or skills you want to learn, they're all set up for you to be able to plug and play, binge watch, and watch them over and over again. All right, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think and let me know if you create this magic daffodil yourself. Until next time, happy creating. Bye for now.